All right, hey there, folks. Even though convention signings and other live events are back on track, I figured I would keep bringing book tour to you. So, welcome to Russ's Rockin' Rollercoaster, intriguing interviews with creative minds. Well, the closer we get to Halloween, the more I've got a creepy, crawly itch that really needs to scratch. And I love it with a theatrical flair. So, please welcome tonight's guest, what I like to call the wild man of horror, Clay McLeod Chapman. Clay writes books, comic books, children's books, and for film and TV, with, of course, a dose of horror. Welcome, Clay.
Hey, how's it going?
It goes, man. It goes. All right. So, just a heads
Mhm.
up to the folks at home. Feel free to send notes or questions you have for Clay in the chat box, and we'll get to a few at the end. All right. So, as we always do, we'll start at the beginning. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Oh man, I was born in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Roanoke, Virginia. And I was there till probably like 5 or 6.
All right.
And
Hold
then
on.
I'm
No, no, hold on. Hold on. Stay there for a second.
okay.
Blue, so, Blue Ridge Mountains.
hmm
Until you're 5, 6. So do you have distinct memories of that time?
Vague, not I mean, distinct enough to kind of. I mean, they rattle around for sure. I mean, Roanoke is one of these. Um, Smaller kind of blue collar towns. I mean, for me, like everybody looked like all I remember is that everybody looked like Creedence Clearwater Revival. Like they were just like they were kind of like, they were all wearing flannels, they had the boots, they had mutton chops. They just looked like, and maybe I'm just dating myself, but like back then, like everybody just looked really burly. Men and women. Like everyone was just very burly back then.
Do you have memories of the actual like the mountains themselves, or is it just kind of like this hazy kind of like time and from your childhood?
The mountains are a little hazy, but the wild thing about Roanoke is that it has I don't know if it still holds the world record, but when I was there, they had the they held the Guinness World Record of like the largest man-made star that ever existed. And it was like it was on the mountain. Like they had built a big old metal star on the mountain, and it would light up every so often, I think. I don't know if it lit up every night, but I I have like I mean maybe they lit it up during Christmas time, but like
Right.
it was definitely like during the day you would just see this kind of like iron like hulking shape, and you were just like that was the star that we all lived underneath the star that was like on the mountaintop.
Oh, rock on. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you're there till 5, 6, and then you moved. So where'd you head after that?
I moved to Richmond,
Okay.
Virginia, and
Okay.
I lived in Richmond for the good, the kind of primary focus of my childhood, up
Okay.
until like 18 or so.
All right. So what was
Um,
so what was the lineup there? Is it just you? Do you have brothers, sisters? Like what was the situation there?
I'm an only child. I don't know if you want to do warts and all, but like,
Always.
uh,
The wartier the better.
um, I never met my dad. He wasn't in the picture.
Okay.
So, but his family was all in the mountains. It was really like they were the ones in the mountains. And my mom basically just kind of like lived in the Valley of Roanoke. And she raised me on her own for a long time. And then there was like this little blip. There was like this 3-year blip where she got remarried, and that marriage moved us to Richmond. So I left Roanoke with a stepdad, and I arrived in Richmond with a stepdad, and then that marriage kind of dissolved, and then it was just me and my mom again for years and years and years. But basically, the stepdad was the vehicle in which got us to to Richmond.
So,
But yeah,
okay.
just me and my mom.
All right. So your stepdad was really the mechanism that transplanted you from the mountains into Richmond.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it would be so wild. I've never even thought of it that way, but like maybe if that marriage had not happened, I would still be in the mountains in Roanoke, Virginia. That'd be
And
so
maybe
weird.
and
Totally different life.
maybe you'd be in a CCR cover band.
I mean, I got to admit, maybe it's because everybody looked like they were in CCR to me,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like I
Uh,
love me some
Oh,
CCR.
come on.
Like
Who doesn't? How could you not?
I mean, that's the question I ask myself day after day, but like I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
funny story. Well, for me, so I'm a CCR fan, of course, and I've always got music playing on in the house in the car, and my wife went to college in Emory down in Atlanta, and
Uh-huh.
they were playing. Apparently, they were huge down there, and so she always thought that she just like, oh, I can't stand Creedence, and yet every time I had it on the car, she'd be like bopping along. I'm like, honey, I thought you didn't like Creedence. She's like, oh, shut up. They just have so many good songs.
That's the thing. Like CCR, like they're one of these ubiquitous bands. Like they like at least one of their songs,
Oh
whether
yeah.
you know it or not. Like I think you could be like just kind of like, down on the corner. If I am ever in a position, which I'll never be, but if I'm ever in a position to do some karaoke, it's gonna be a
Yeah.
CCR night
All right, you know what?
for this fella.
Now that you've said that, the next time I see you at a convention, I'm going to set you up. You know that's going to happen, right?
Over like it may be a over my dead body thing because
You
I
know
have
what?
sworn off
I'm
karaoke. I
I'm
can't.
I'm pretty persuasive. I'm pretty persuasive.
You are.
I
I've
am.
noticed this about you.
Yeah,
You
right.
are you get what
I
you want
I do.
and you don't let go.
No, I do not. All right. All right. So you're in Virginia. You get there when you're around six or so. So only child. So what's your mom do? Like, what was her profession? How did she get by?
She's a potter. She was a craftsperson.
Really?
Yeah, she would like she made ceramics for the good portion of my life, her life. She's theoretically retired now, but she still has a kiln in her own kind of potter's wheel, and she
Huh.
does it on occasion, but not to the frequency, the clip that she did when I was younger.
Did
But
she
yeah,
teach you? Did you teach you how to do it?
I mean, she tried, and it
It didn't take.
never took. Like
Yeah, yeah.
um, but man, she would. I mean, like talk about discipline. Like she would sit at that wheel for hours every day. Like like our house, like we had a garage. Once we got to Richmond, we had this like kind of refurbished garage that they had instead of like parking cars in it, like they had turned it into a kiln room. So like she had two kilns and a potter's wheel, and like that was her getup. Like she would, I mean, like it was like a one woman, one mom band where she would just like make like mugs, saucers, bowls, vases, and then like there were the practical things, the things that you could use, like your own coffee mug.
Right.
But then she would make all of this stuff that was like she was like obsessed with fish. She loved fish. So she would make ceramic fish all the damn time. Like she would make a plate and put like a fish on it, or she would make a plate and put a
Okay.
fish bone on it. Like she would just like like I don't know like if you were a Portlandia fan, but there's like the put a bird on it. Like
Okay.
she did like put a fish. She just put a fish on everything.
So,
And
man,
it would
did she literally just sell items like out of the garage? Did she have a shop? Like, what was the,
no. We're talking about, doing the convention circuit and doing like StokerCon and Nikon. Like she tapped into this craft circuit. There would be like
hmm.
craft fairs, art
Right.
shows,
Okay. Right.
I mean, pretty much like every town has one of these things
Right.
where it's like a
Sure.
weekend,
Yeah.
like
Flea markets
the
and whatnot.
yeah,
Yeah.
like almost a farmer's market, but like
Yep.
more of an art market.
Oh,
And like people from all over, just like they like pack their vans and they come, they have their tents and they kind of set up. It's basically like tabling at a convention, but
right.
instead
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
sell books, it's
Oh, let me ask you just, I want to just ask one more question about the
yeah.
family stuff. So, I'm the child of multiple divorces. So, been
Uh-huh.
there, done that, had
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah.
I used to say that we were like the UN. People just came in, they left, they came in, they went in and
Yeah.
out. So, what was that like for you? Like, did it bother you sort of being disconnected from your dad and not having brother siblings, or did you just sort of say, "Hey, my life is it's just me and my mom and we're all good," or like what was that like for you?
I mean, I was totally a mama's boy for one thing. Just she was the world to me. And dads are funny. Like dads are weird. Like I definitely had a chip on my shoulder with my biological father. He just made it like abundantly clear that he had no interest in me. Like Virginia has this funky law. It's like called the deadbeat dad law or something like that. And it's like if you ever get caught or like he kind of like bailed on child support and
Right.
like just like just doing all these like poopy things that you're just like, oh man, like it just was very clear that like he just didn't want to be a part of my life. And years later, I found out that that he had children in other subsequent marriages or
Right.
couplings. Um, and like as we speak, there are half siblings out there in this world that I have never met, no, don't know their name. Like I just don't know who the hell they are. But I think like I heard that they're like twins. Like I have twin sibling. I don't know. I
So
think they're
are you
boy.
are you
I
interested in have you thought about ever? I mean, I haven't, although some of my family has, like doing
yeah.
those ancestry DNA or whatever just to see like
Ooh.
who's really out there, or is it like, you know what? I don't even want to know what's out there.
I don't want to know what's out there. I would rather kind of hold on to whatever preconceived like when it comes to my father, like I am very kind of like steadfast and just like he made it clear to me that he doesn't want to have anything to do with me. I don't want to have anything to do with
Right.
him.
I hear you.
Um and like that anger, like honestly, man, growing up, like some like suburban punk kid in like, like I
Yeah.
was just like the chip on my shoulder was just so wide,
I'm somewhat familiar with that.
It- I was this like I hate my dad. Like it was basically like that. I got fuel off of that
Yeah.
for years. Like probably like a good like 20 years of just like anger and resentment towards my father.
Yeah.
Um and I had this like weird, it's not a bet, but it was like my mom and my father were really young when they had me.
Sure.
So I think they were like in their early, like I can't remember the age now. It's probably like I think it was like 23 or
Yeah.
25.
Well, our generation, a lot of it was like that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I just had this moment to myself where I said, as long as I don't screw up until the time, like until the year that my father was when he had me,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
like every screw up before that date, I'd be like, oh, I'm just like my dad.
Right.
Like it was just like,
Uh,
like I would just be like, if I had a child out of wedlock or like there was like an illegitimate baby out there, like if I did anything like that, thank God there wasn't. But if I'd be like, oh, I'm just like my father. But any mess up, screw up after that, it was on my own
it's yours. It's like,
terms.
hey,
That's mine. I was like, hey, I have an illegitimate baby, but I'm
yeah.
26, so I
But
own.
I did this. I did it my way. I didn't do it your way. I did it.
Oh man,
There you go. All
it's
right.
terrible,
So,
but that's the
uh,
that's the truth.
oh, I know it. All right. So you were a mama's boy with a chip on your shoulder. What were you into as a kid? Like, what kept you busy?
I mean, the funny thing is because my mom was working all the damn time and I had no other siblings that I knew of, I I just I had a lot of time on my own myself. And like, a lot of that was absorbed by after school television. Like, I watch TV religiously. Um,
Or
but
what was your jam? Like, what were you really into? I mean, we all watch TV, but what were you watching? What were you
yeah.
reading? Like, what was your crack back then?
Man, am I gonna be able to pull that out?
I
Well, I will say, there was of course like after school cartoons. You come home and you watch G.I. Joe or He-Man or Transformers. But one of the show, like there was like an odd like Sunday evening block. And this is like one of the kind of formative memories. Like I like when I kind of like, oh, there's a darkness in here. Um, it was this like 2 half-hour anthology series block of Alfred Hitch, like this is in the
Yep.
80s, like
Yep.
forgive me, like I'm an 80s child, I'm a Spielberg kid,
You and
but
me both. Mhm.
like the the redux of the Alfred Hitchcock,
Hitchcock presents.
yeah, Alfred Hitchcock presents,
Yep.
and Steven Spielberg's Amazing
Amazing
Stories.
stories.
Those two, like I think they were like back to back on
Yep.
Sunday evenings or something. And I just remember watching those, and sometimes I would watch them with my family. But it was kind of amazing because like, I was way too young to watch it, but there were episodes of Alfred Hitchcock's Alfred Hitchcock Alfred Hitchcock Presents that was like, I think like Tim Burton directed one called The
Right.
Jar, which was insane because it was basically like like an artist like has this like weird jar and you don't know what's in the jar, but it looks like it's a shrunken head, and like you just like see this kind of like purpley murky kind of like
Yeah,
stuff, and you know, either he is driven mad or he becomes like so obsessed with the what's in the jar that like he ends up like murdering. Like it's all vague and kind of like almost out of my memory's grip, but like I just remember the jar.
all right,
And
so
then
so you watch some Alfred Hitchcock, some amazing stories, and then so my understanding is that you so just and the way you are, and
hmm,
we've hung out a bit, and you certainly have a quite, let's call it a theatrical approach to just about, well,
hmm, hmm,
everything that you do. So
hmm.
talk to me about the theater.
Um, I have a love-hate relationship with theater. It's I mean, like, how am I gonna put this? Like I love theater so much, but I hate it just as much. Like I'm very kind of critical and judgmental of theater, and it's because I'm not really good at it. And like well, I mean, like it's funny because like I in school growing up, like like I like spent so much time doing theatery stuff, and I I feel like there's like there's people who are like innately talent and like have the ability to uh craft, like kind of forge their like really kind of like focus on their craft, and I'm just not that person. I might have like a modicum of talent, but like not the structure or
The
the stuff
discipline.
that actually makes it good. um I'm a ham, and I think that's what you're kind of responding to, where like I have no shame.
Right.
I am not in like my kids are totally embarrassed by me because like I don't care what people think of me, but I
Yeah.
really do care what people think of me. So like
Huh.
I'm constantly seeking approval and making a fool out of myself at the same time because it's just, like weird, it goes hand in hand. But you know, starting in like middle school, like fifth grade to middle school, like I started to kind of like the acting bug bit and then the playwriting bug bit. And I like went to an after school program for acting. Uh, and then and that was like in middle school. And then like in middle school, I started like going to like writers camp, like playwriting camp. And then in high school, I would audition for the school plays and like act. And then it all culminates more or less in I skipped out of high school a year early and moved down to North Carolina because there's this program there at in UNC, the North Carolina School of the Performing Arts. It's this like arts conservatory, and they've got like dance, music, filmmaking, like some amazing people
So
have
it was
come
like
out of
the
it.
fame of North Carolina.
Oh my God. This school, I mean, like honestly, like this school, like David Gordon Green came out from this school. I mean, like, oh, so many like phenomenal like filmmakers and storytellers and craftsmen. But they have this wild program where it's like, hey, you're in high school, come to our school and we'll kind of get you on this track where like you're you're taking whatever credits you need in order to get a high school diploma, but we're essentially kind of putting you in an arts conservatory, like in like art college. And like we lived there. I had to audition, like I got in, and it was like the best experience. But like from like at day one, I like this dawning kind of like realization hit me where it's like, oh my God, like I can't act. Like I can't do this. And like I mean, it was phenomenal. Like there were so many like teachers who were just like, I don't know what the fuck to do with you, kid. Like it would just be like it was like a square peg trying to get into a circular
I
hole.
get so you're sort of like if I'm reading you, if I'm hearing you right, you're sort of like in all these sort of creative endeavors at that time, you were sort of like a dabbler, but
Yeah.
you didn't really you weren't truly not really a joiner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would join. I would totally join. I would lockstep and like follow like like let's go here, guys. Like there's no like maverick quality to this. Like
Okay.
it truly it's like I feel like there's like a certain kind of evolutionary step where it's like you're the fish crawling out of the primordial ooze, and like you're losing your gills and you're losing your tail, and now you're like like you're now a lizard, and you're like you've evolved into this next thing. Like I personally feel as if I have always been some weird in betweenish thing
Yes, no, I get
where
it.
it's like I'm a little bit of this and maybe a little bit of that, and but I can't really say I'm just this and I can't really say
What
I'm
is that
just that.
expression? You know, like a dabbler of many, but a master of none.
Oh, I'm a friggin' master of nothing. I got no mastery.
I know
I
I am masterless.
um I mean I you know you know personally, like I always have this kind of debate with myself where like I look to the people who inspire me, and whether they're filmmakers or artists or writers, and it's like they do one thing
That's
and they
all
work on it
relentlessly.
obsessively, like they focus on it and they just do nothing but that thing, and then when that thing is finally released into the world, it's like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
um I'm like, I'm gonna do a little bit of this and I'm gonna do a little bit of that, and
I
like they're all
yeah.
kind of like
Well, yep, I hear you. So we're going to sort of just pivot a little bit.
yeah,
It's a little bit of a transition, but it's
done.
quasi-related. So to varying degrees, we all have questions and thoughts and musings and fears and concerns and questions about the afterlife and whether there's really a way to communicate with the dead.
Yeah.
Now, I understand you've had a little experience with some seances. So I want to hear a little bit about that, and that's kind of a dramatic kind of a setting unto itself.
I mean, I don't know if I can actually say I've had like personal experience with seance. I mean, like I am obsessed with seances. I love the
Okay,
notion of seances. I write
why?
about seances
Why?
all the damn time.
So let me ask you that. I'll sort of rephrase the question then. So what is it about seances that just sort of sucks you in
Yeah.
and
The need, the personal need to connect with people who we can no longer connect to. Like it is like I'm just obsessed with that idea of like taking something that's really grounded in something emotional, and I feel like grief gets thrown around a little bit too much these days, like the notion of grief poor. So I feel a little cagey saying the word grief, but in one's grief, in someone's life who we have, if they have lost somebody, uh there is this individual, this concept, this pitch that's basically like, hey, death is not the end. You, in your grief, can reach out and like connect to those that you've lost or someone on the other side. And And I just find that so compelling. In a weird way, it is a little bit more of a handy, a more kind of like handcrafted version of religion to me, where like just this notion of like, um, it's scary to think that like when you die, and that's it. Or like, when mom dies, when dad dies, when grandma and grandpa die, like when the people we love die, you know, rather than the kind of the notion of like flicking a switch, like you wanna hope that there's something
Something.
more, there's something else.
So
And
not that I'm some. Well, I'm going to play a little armchair psychology here.
uh-huh.
You think there, so you're talking about, the seance is the idea of, reaching out to someone maybe who's gone. Do you think in some way it's actually a way that you're trying to reach out to your dad? That
Oh, wow.
that relation
No.
that relationship
No.
kind of
No,
died
never.
at the beginning.
Can you imagine? I mean,
Not
he
maybe
passed
not
away.
maybe not him exactly, but sort of the notion of like we all have these ideas of if I could draw it up the way I want it to be,
Hmm.
relationship with, in this case, like your dad would look like X. Didn't happen,
Yeah.
didn't get it. Do you think there's some way of, oh, if I could reach out and find some way to sort of make that right or understand it more? And do you think there's some element of that in there somewhere?
I mean, I'm gonna flat out say no. Like I have had no compulsion whatsoever to this day to meet that man in this world or in the beyond.
Actually, I'm not even talking about meeting him, but
Yeah.
sort of, a way to sort of like find your way into this, maybe there's an understanding of it or a way to sort of like to understand if there was something actually underneath it all where it's like,
Yeah.
what, deep down he really did want me and he just couldn't show me, or I don't know.
Um,
It is
no,
no.
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 Like I'm actually gonna really push hard against it because
Okay.
like even now, just thinking of him, like there is no love for this man. It's like I, he has been always this like this faceless entity of everything that angers me in this world. And like of all the people, I would rather reach out to like Eleanor Roosevelt than my father. I just don't have. Yeah, there's nothing, and maybe I'll think about it later and come to regret that. But like at this point, like
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
know where he's buried. I don't know where.
Okay.
Like he is he is a dude like, and here's the thing, this is like bedrock childhood
Mhm.
like trauma
Yeah.
coming out here, like
Oh,
basically like when you're 6 and you're like, mommy, who's daddy? And you're
yeah.
like, and like dad doesn't love you, or what, she didn't say that, but like basically the gist
Yeah, I
is
get it.
like, your dad left and has never paid for anything for like there's just like a, like when you absorb that as a child,
That,
it's
that's
pretty easy for that to just solidify.
that's some psychic damage there. I mean, that don't
I
that's like
mean, you're
that's
looking at it
that,
like
hey, this is
this is
me.
what you get.
This is what you see what happens when you walk away.
Oh my
Hey.
God. Yeah.
All right. All right. All right.
Um,
All right. I'll stop poking around in that closet for now. So let me ask you this, sort of more fundamentally. And this is, I
yeah.
asked this question a lot because of the years I've been, he and I were talking, Clay and I were talking offline a little bit. I've really kind of leaned very heavy. 4 years ago, I used to say on the show, I don't read horror, I don't watch horror, I'm a
Mhm.
scaredy cat, and now I'm like, I'm all in. So the question is, what is it about horror as a genre that appeals to you so much? Like what is, and there's, horror is a very, it's an umbrella, term for, there's so many subgenres, and there's, splatter punk, and there's psychological horror and eco horror and
Yeah.
thrillers and all kinds of stuff. Why horror and what kind of horror?
Um, I'm a baby when it comes to horror. I watch horror all the time. I imbibe horror. I love horror. I can't do the real extreme stuff.
Mm,
Like my kind of barometer, like the end of the spectrum that I can get to is something like I watched Last House on the Left once and I was like, that actually made me queasy.
mm,
Um, and like French extreme film like Martyrs, Inside, uh, Hot Tension. Like those films, I actually like those. I don't Martyrs was a little too much for me. But that's like so you mentioned Splatterpunk and it's like I can't do that very well. Um but I mean I remember as a kid, I mean again, it all goes back to childhood and I feel like a broken record, but like there was that one babysitter who just like popped in Halloween to watch.
Oh,
And
now we're getting somewhere. Okay. Ah, all right. You and the babysitter. Let's talk
yeah.
about that.
I mean, I don't even, God, I can't even remember. I think the babysitter lived across the street and like,
Okay.
I mean, like, well, and even, I don't even think it was I don't think it was a VCR thing. I think it was
Right.
like on TV.
Yeah.
Like, I remember what blew my mind as a kid was Halloween, the original, the John
Yep.
Carpenter. Um, they had a TV cut, like an
Yeah.
edit that
Yeah.
had scenes that were specifically filmed
For
for,
TV. Yeah.
yeah. And I remember watching that first. Like I remember watching Halloween on TV as
Okay.
a kid.
So it
And
was like
there were
muted
those
version.
scenes like the blandest, most boring scene, like the scenes
Right.
that like didn't necessarily add much complexity other than like, Dr. Loomis like is talking to the young Michael Myers in the room. Like he's like, "You may have fooled them, but you haven't fooled me, Michael." Like
Yeah.
like there were like all these like little bits and scenes. Um, but so I watched that as a kid, messed me up. Like there you go. But then however many years later, I'm watching Halloween again for the first time, and then it was
Right.
probably a VHS, and those scenes weren't there,
Right.
and I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was losing my mind
You're like,
because
what happened to those scenes, right?
I was like, no, you don't understand. And like nobody believed me. I was like, guys, there are scenes in this movie that are not in this movie. And it freaked me out because like everybody's like, uh-huh, sure, like yeah,
Right.
and I was like, no, I remember. And like it just became this like in a way, what it was is it showed me the kind of duplicity of filmmaking or storytelling that like, you know, because of something as kind of like crass or consumerist capitalist is like, oh, we just need more airtime to like in between commercial breaks. So just write a scene, film a scene, and we'll add
Right.
it to the TV. Like all of a sudden I was like, that's a lot. You're lying to me. Like I felt like there was this
Oh,
betrayal.
oh,
Um,
wow. Okay. Betrayal of the TV cut. All right. Fair enough.
John Carpenter betrayed me. Like he
So,
lied to me.
so talk to me about it. So you saw it, but what do you like or love about horror? Why do you keep coming back?
Um, I mean, I know we always do the kind of roller coaster metaphor, but like, I don't know. Maybe it's like tornado chasing. Like maybe it's just like trauma chasing. Like like there's that weird like if you watch something when you're like not ready for it, it
Yeah.
leaves
A
an
mark.
impression on you. It's like a
Yeah.
soft trauma that
Yeah.
just like makes a mark. And I don't know about you, but I feel as if when something leaves that much of an impression, anything less than that
Just doesn't cut.
feels, yeah, it kind of pales in comparison.
So really what you're saying is you're still chasing that first
I'm
high.
chasing that dragon.
You're chasing that
I'm
dragon.
chasing that Michael Myers
Okay,
dragon.
fair enough. All right, so I want to ask you, this is, and I have a very specific reason I'm asking. So in one of your books, The Ghost Eaters,
Hmm.
you focus on addiction, and I want to spend a minute on this. Now, addiction is a complex topic. It's serious. It's no joke. I know, unfortunately, personally, I know many people who have been affected by it. And it's not just what happens to them, it's also their friends and their family. And it's a real wrecking ball and very complicated. I've been personally in meetings in support of other people. I've been to AA meetings, NA meetings, and on and on. And I know I've seen some ugliness up close. Um, Now, not all readers are so eager to dive into those kinds of stories and themes. So I'm really curious about, talk to me about how you handled addiction in your book and how you've been able to welcome readers into it without them feeling like they're going to get a 12-step
Hmm.
lecture or maybe even having it a little too close to home. Like I find it's a very difficult um, needle to thread there.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I'm relieved to hear that you feel like I threaded the needle because I don't know, I always feel like the jury's out. I mean, with Ghost Eaters, I mean, it came from a place where, the one of the kind of origin stories behind it was I had lost a friend to addiction, and he had such a lust for life, um, that for a lot of this kind of particular circle of friends, like he was too good for this world. Like he was just not. He like he made the world a better place, but like the world, it was just like he didn't fit in the world. Like
Yeah.
he was just outside of kind of structured society in such a way that like,
It's like that Beach Boys song, right? Like I just wasn't made for these times.
yeah, exactly, totally. Like I think that, you know, he was this amazing guy who, I mean, I knew him from high school through college into our early to mid 20s, and he was a poet. Like we always had this kind of like this we always kind of daydreamed that we would be the Beats. Like we always like, you be Jack Kerouac and I'll be William S. Burroughs, and like that was just our like cosplay. Um he was just a beautiful guy, and he just didn't fit. Like he just didn't fit. And he found drugs, and he found heroin, and it took him. And I was kind of growing in a different direction, and stubbornly, like in your early to mid 20s, you just have no friggin' clue who you are.
Nope.
And I thought I knew who I was, and I thought the thing that I needed to do was draw a line. And like having been a friend and having supported him and having given him a couch to crash on and
Right.
lend him money, like I was like, I am cutting you off because you need, like, me helping you is not helping you, so you need to help yourself.
Right.
And you know, a little while later he OD'd, and that was that. And this was like decades ago now. Um, but like I just like, they're just so few true regrets in this world. But that to me is like one that I carry. And
What is it that you think that you did wrong? I mean, it doesn't sound like I'm not hearing anything horrible.
well, I mean, you know, the the feeling for me was, if I had only given him one more couch to crash on, if I
Yeah.
had only given him a
You
little
got a
bit
little
more money.
survivor's guilt going on.
Yeah, totally. Um, in that respect, like in Ghost Eaters, like I'm the Aaron of the story, the protagonist, and my friend is kind of a Silas, totally shellacked and layered and
Right.
story, but like the kind of core regret of like not like cutting someone off who you love.
It's hard. It's
And
horrible. It's a horrible
um
situation. It's a horrible situation.
so I just wanted to explore that. And like honestly, addiction has been in my family. It continues to be in my family.
Yep.
Um, and for me, what it was kind of like radical honesty of just like, try not to kind of shy away from the story that I wanted to tell. But yeah, like no sermonizing, I
Yeah.
hope, because um, the books that kind of impacted me the most were like uh Requiem for a Dream,
Ooh,
or even like, Bright Lights Big City,
right.
or books that have no redemption. There's
No,
no
no,
kind of
no,
happy
it's not.
ending.
Not on those.
Um,
No.
but like I think that's kind of like survival. Like you
So when you go out, so when you're out, you write these books, you put them out in the world, and you talk to people. Do you find that from in trying to attract readers, do they kind of go like, ugh, addiction? Yeah, I don't know if I want to go there. Or like, what's the for you? What has been your experience in dealing with, you know, trying to sell this book, interacting with fans because it's such a sensitive
Yeah.
topic. It can really go in any number of directions. Like, what's been that interaction? Like, how do they say, oh God, I really love your stuff, but I don't know if I could do an addiction story? Like, what are the conversations?
I mean, to be honest, the what has been kind of surprising about ghost eaters in particular is that um more often than not, it's not so much that people will be like, ugh, I can't do addiction. It's actually the opposite, where people will be like, hey, this is how addiction intersects in my life, in my personal history.
Mm.
And people have felt compelled to kind of share their story,
Huh, okay.
which is like that, that to me is phenomenal. Like that is like, yeah, it doesn't happen all the time. And
Right,
but it's frequent enough that like there is, they read that book and there's like I'm compelled to kind of share my personal experiences. And
right.
I honestly like that has been one of the biggest boosts for me with Ghost Eaters, because like, it doesn't answer any questions.
Right.
Like there's no solution, like, there's no 13th step in Ghost Eaters, but like um but people just say like, hey, yeah, I have a uncle who
Right.
this happened to, or I have a friend or a lover. And I just like that to me, honestly, like just the power of literature, and like, that stories kind of connect people together. Like the world is a less lonely place when someone says, hey, I read your book and it reminded me of this thing in my life, and I wanted to share that with
Ah,
you
okay.
because you.
So you think that sort of, not just in the book, but just you personally being willing to, be a little open and vulnerable about that experience. Do you think it's helping you connect with an audience?
I hope so. I mean, I definitely want to. I mean, like it. There's never a moment of like, hey guys, the doctor's in. Like,
Oh no, oh,
I'm
no, no.
here.
I don't mean it like that, but just because some people you'll write about a thing
Yeah.
and then I said what I wanted to say, and then
Oh yeah.
they don't like to talk about it.
Yeah. No, I'm totally down to talk about it. I
Okay.
want to talk about it.
Right.
I mean, like, Jesus, if anybody wants to talk to me about about something, riffing off of something I wrote,
I,
like
I,
that's astounding. That's amazing. That's like,
all day. Let's go.
yeah. Like I'm here for that.
Right.
Like, please.
Yeah, let's do it.
Um,
Okay, well that was great. But now it's a time, especially for a special segment on the show where we spin the wheel on the wheel of seven
oh my
possible
God.
categories, including a few new ones I brought out for tonight's show. Wherever it lands is what you get, and the categories are: dinner is served, the reanimator, soundtrack of your life, apocalypse, stranger in a strange land, I am Rocket Man, and cabin fever. All
Oh
right, you
my God.
ready? Here we
Okay.
go. All right, round and round. Let's see what you get for you. And you got, ooh, dinner is served. I like this one. All right.
Oh God. Okay.
Okay. Dr. Hannibal Lecter has invited you over to dinner. Knowing his penchant for feeding his victims to unsuspecting guests, would you eat what looks like a delicious meal he prepared, knowing what might be in there, or do you decline, fearing how he might take that rejection?
He, I know what he's cooking. Does he know I know?
Well, so he's prepared a meal. It may just be exactly what it looks like. It may be something very different. You're sort of if you decide to eat it, you're kind of rolling the dice on what you're putting into your mouth.
Oh my God. I mean, every fiber of my body wants to say, no, don't eat it. I can't eat it. There's no way. Because I know, like we know what's in there. Um,
But are you afraid that if you say no, that you'll piss him off?
I would totally be afraid that I would piss him off. But I feel like it's par for the course for Mr. Lecter that someone politely demurs. I don't know. I want to say no, but I sense the big risk involved in that. And yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna take the risk. I'm gonna gamble and say,
Okay. All
you
right.
know
So
what?
no,
I
so
actually ate on the way over
all right.
the
So,
animal.
I like it. I had a big dinner. There you go. I'll just have wine. Okay, fair enough. All right. So now we're gonna pick your poison. I got three choices for you. A, B, or C, but I'm not going to tell you what's behind each one. So A, B, C.
See.
All right, this is one of my favorites. It comes up a lot. I don't know why, but it does. This one is Benjamin's button. All right, I'm going to give you two options, and you got to pick one. Option number one, much like Benjamin Button, you can live your life fully in reverse, where you are born incredibly old and then you get younger until you reach your cellular state. Or you can relive the life that you've had, only knowing that if you do start over, chances are you're going to make some changes going going back the second time, but you have no idea really what those changes might do to impact your life going forward. So, which one do you do? Do you pick a life in reverse or life do-over?
Ooh, do over. Do
Right?
over.
You gonna do it again, huh?
Yeah, I'm not happy with the choices or my decision, but living a Benjamin Button existence does just not sound appealing to me whatsoever.
I hear you. All right, fair enough. You're gonna roll that dice again. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm gonna give you some truth
What
serum.
would you do?
I'm the one asking the questions, not answering.
Oh, no
You'll
fair. No fair.
when you want to interview me, you can ask me all the questions you like. All right.
All right, fair
Okay, I
enough.
got 10 questions for you. Here we go. Favorite flavor ice cream?
Peanut butter.
What's one food you will never eat ever for any reason?
Cherry tomatoes.
You get me. Bucket list destination anywhere in the world.
Alaska.
Ooh, there's a mind meld going on here. I'm telling you. All right, scariest movie you ever saw?
The one that came to my mind is Where Evil Lurks. When Evil Lurks, Where Evil Lurks.
Okay, okay. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
To swim forever underwater.
Ooh, Aquaman. Okay. Do you play any musical instruments? And if
No.
not, which one if you could?
Nope, nope, nope. Drums if I could, but can't.
Okay. Well, alas, I am a drummer. There you go.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Favorite cocktail? And if you don't drink, your favorite unwind beverage?
Milkshakes.
Milkshakes. Interesting. Okay. You can see a live performance, sports, music, theater, whatever, any seat, any venue, any time in history. What's your choice?
Oh man. This is a terrible answer, but the first Lollapalooza concert.
Oh, okay. Lollapalooza. All right.
That's a, I mean, oh my God. Yeah,
I don't even
might as
remember
well.
who's in that original lineup. I don't even remember. So long.
Jane's
Jane's
Addiction,
Addiction. Oh yeah. Oh, Jane says. There you go.
Nine Inch
Inch
Nails.
Nails. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If you can get a continuation of any canceled TV show ever, what would it be?
Um, I I love, I mean, I was gonna say The Wire, but that closed.
You know,
Uh,
I just rewatched the entire run of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I I just want to keep watching The Wire because I feel like there's just more story to tell. I know they said like we're done,
Have
so it
you
wasn't
did you
technically
did you
canceled.
watch We Own the City?
No, I didn't. Any good?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's gonna like by the time it's over.
Is it still going?
No, no, no. It was only 6 episodes or 8 episodes of whatever it
Okay.
was. But when that little limited series is over, you are not gonna be in a good place.
Oh, oh, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. Okay. Wire. Okay. So you're sticking with the wire?
I mean, that's such a lame answer.
Why? Why
I
is it?
don't know.
I don't think it's
I
a
feel
lame.
like there's
Are you
bound to
kidding
be
me?
others.
If I could have gotten 5 more seasons of McNulty being McNulty, I would have done it.
What did I do?
What
What
the
the
fuck?
fuck did
No.
I do?
What the fuck did I do? There you go. All right. So there's no questions in the chat, but there's a couple I didn't get to that I wanted. We have a little more time. I did want to ask. So you write for a variety of formats. Now, I'm a huge, not as much lately, only because I have the time, huge comic book fan, and including
Yeah.
including some indie comics that I wrote once upon a time. So talk to me about writing for comics and why you like that. I mean, I know why I like reading and writing comics, but I want to know what you like about that particular format as opposed to writing prose.
I mean, I love comics. Like as far as visual mediums go, like there it's amazing because it's like it it kind of takes reading reading and film and kind of finds this odd uh middle ground between them. And I love that like you take in these images and it plays with time. Like the kind of notion of flipping the page, turning the page is so important. The
Yep.
like the splash page, like everything about the way that a comic is assembled, and how you absorb it, imbibe it. Like it's really like that's some great stuff. Like that's what, you know, nothing else. No, books don't do that.
Mm.
Like, films don't do that. Like,
What are some of your
but
favorite comics?
well, I'm reading it right now, but there's this new one called The Deviant by James Tinian the
Okay.
Fourth.
Uh, okay.
Um, it's so good. It's a 9 issue series, and I just got up to 8, and it's so grim and gross and captivating. Like I love it.
Okay.
Um, I would recommend it, but it's
Okay.
a
All right.
bleak, 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 bleak.
Okay.
Um, I mean, like Gideon Falls is a great one. Oh, there's this amazing one called No what hold it, it's right here. I'm still talking. Still talking. Um, but I'm just grabbing this comic that's right next to
Mhm.
um Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. This
Okay.
is an amazing graphic novel
Okay.
comic. It's a comic series that they just put into the trades,
Okay.
and it's so good. It's
So
like, do you remember those Richard Scarry
yeah.
books
Yep.
for kids?
Yep.
With all the kind of like the animals, like it's like a small town, and like,
Uh-huh.
I'm a police
Yeah.
officer, and like I'm a carpenter. It's that, but with a serial killer.
Oh. So since you're a
It's
horror
really
guy, did you ever read From Hell?
mm-hmm.
God, do I love that.
God, I did
That's
a reread of that, and it was just like,
oh,
I mean, talk about like just you dive in and you just get
so
lost within it.
it's
It's just
so
like you
dense. There's so much in there. Wow.
totally, totally, totally.
Meticulously researched, brilliant. Okay, just real quick because we're running out of time. So talk to me a little bit of what's your involvement with TV and film?
I mean, film and TV is funny. I have been fortunate that I've gotten a few films out there based on scripts that I've written. And but it's so funny. Like it's like a kind of iceberg effect where it's like, I've written this amount of scripts that have actually gone and made. I have written this many scripts that have been sold or optioned, and I have written this many scripts that have not done anything, nobody's
Mm,
bought, nobody's optioned, not seen the light of day. So it's like maybe 3 to like 5 or 10, and then like 30, like just the sheer number of like the amount of work and pages that go into like writing for film and TV. And then like maybe they see the light of day, maybe they don't.
mm.
I've developed a lot of TV stuff, or not a lot. I've developed a decent amount of TV stuff. I've had some kind of like made for TV stuff happen on the basic cables, which I think kind of hopefully technically allows me to say that I've written for TV.
Oh yeah,
I've seen some things get to the TV waves, the airwaves,
okay.
um, but mainly feature film stuff.
Okay. All right. All right. So, all right, guys, we're almost out of time. So I'm going to share my screen. I got some goodies for you. So we're going to, all right, buddy. So talk to me. Whoops. What am I looking at? And what do we got going on here?
Oh my God. We are looking at the future. Um, we're basically looking at what is going to be probably the hardest year of my life. Because I'm going to have to try to convince the world to read this book. It's called Wake Up and Open Your Eyes. And it is a book about, it's kind of a what if scenario of like, you know, half of the country is possessed by demons. And which half kind of depends on where you get your news, where you get your information, whether that's, what channels you're watching, what apps you're on. Like
Right.
it's basically a demonic possession story for our modern times.
Right. No, all right. Okay. But so that's kind of thematically just
Yeah.
basically what's the as simplistically as you can, what's the plot? What's our pathway into the story?
There's this guy named Noah, and Noah's parents have kind of like slipped ever so slightly, gradually, progressively into their kind of conspiracy theory loopholes because of the fact that they watch a lot of cable news, and then eventually they just stop answering the phone. Like they just in effect kind of disappear, and he panics and has to kind of travel to his parents' house to see uh what if they're alive, if they're okay, like what's happening, like why are they not picking up the phone. And when he gets there, he realizes it's something far, far worse, and that's when the apocalypse starts.
Okay.
Yay.
Wow. All right, guys. So here we go. Wake up and open your eyes. Go grab your copy because God knows I'm going to. Read this book. Clay is, if you haven't read his stuff and if you haven't, shame on you. Buy this book. I'm telling you, Clay is the man. Buy this book because I am too. I got some Clays right over here on my shelf, but I don't have this one. That's next up on my to be ordered list. So you just made a sale. So there you go.
Yay.
Yay. All right, guys. So as for me, talking about all things creepy and dark and awful. So I am really happy to showcase Trigger Point. It's the newest book in my ongoing series featuring hard-boiled private detective Angela Hardwick and featuring some of the more psychological horror in the series. In my mind, Hardwick is part Blade Runner, part Doctor Who, part John Wick. In Trigger Point, so Hardwick has recently been released from prison for reasons I will not explain. And as her first solo case back on the street, she's hired by this really nasty pimp to track down whoever killed his best earner. But for him, it's really not about business. It's personal for him. And Hardwick, she's really reluctant to take the case, but she also has some history with this guy, also for reasons I will not explain. Along the way, her partner and protege, Eric Whistler, suddenly goes missing. He's caught in a temporal loop. So she's torn between tracking down the killer of these sex workers and her missing partner. But meanwhile, the fabric of space time is literally beginning to crack, and it drags Hardwick into a realm of nightmares, symbolism, and the dreamscape, and it forces her to confront some demons she really wished would have stayed buried forever. It's probably the most dangerous case she's ever had to deal with, and if you know Hardwick, that's really saying something. Now, I just want to be clear. Every book in the series is a standalone thriller, so you can read them in any order. You do not have to start with book one. I reintroduce the characters and the world building every single time out. I can show even here on the cover here the lightning that Hardwick is surrounded by is very specific to the plot, and this really ferocious drooling Rottweiler also very specific to the plot. I think you're really going to dig it. It's creepy, it's really gritty, and we kind of really get into the stuff. Trigger Point is available on Amazon and it's published by Crazy Eight Press. All right, guys.
Yeah.
So that is our show. I want to thank my guest, Clay McLeod Chapman, for talking about his life and his career and all sorts of things creepy and gross and weird and strange. And I want to thank everyone who's watching at home. And as always, please, implore you, be gentle, be kind, be generous of spirit, and for God's sake, go read a book. And I'll see you all next week. All right, guys, that's it for me. Be well. I'll talk to you again. All right.